Oh, we are live. Hold on, got to get the intros in. Hold on, guys. I was a little too busy here. So, intros. Show it.
All right, everybody, it's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcasts. There's a show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in 3 categories: education, storyteller and drama, and arts. For 5 years and with over 280 weekly episodes and 64 million plus downloads, the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast has provided advice and tips from international best-selling authors, world-class artists, contest judges and winners, and industry professionals. It is based on the world-famous Writers of the Future contest created in 1983 by L. Ron Hubbard to help the aspiring writer and artist no matter their age, race, ethnicity, or gender. It is dedicated to the future of storytelling and art by showing that it is never too late to start, and those who make it are those who never give up. We are all busy, but I'd be so grateful if you could take a moment and vote now. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in any or all 3 of the categories: education, storyteller drama, or art.
Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday night edition of Into the Night with me, Sean Kelly, your host. I want to thank UPRN Talk Radio, 105.3 New Orleans, 107.7 Mississippi. I also want to thank Carnation for sponsoring this hour of my show. Everybody knows that I have 2 shows. I have a Sunday night show and a Tuesday night show, 8:10 to 9:10 p.m. on both nights, and I'm on the same platform, UPRN. Hello, Cindy Simpson. Good to see you. Patrick, good to see you, buddy. Thank you. And Reverend, good evening to you, too. So I'll tell you what. I have known this, my guess, I've known this when he was a little baby. Okay. And I just watching him grow. I mean, it's just been like not a miracle, I guess you want to say it, but it just like he's a little infant, and now he's like grown up and stuff like that, and I'm just so honored to have him here on my show tonight. I'm going to read his bio for you. I mean, I could probably talk a whole hour about him, but Jake is a New York City-based screenwriter and avid movie poster collector. He loved writing his entire life, dating back to co-writing his first novel during the 4th grade recess. It's not as sad as it sounds. In high school, he was inspired by Linklater's Dazed and Confused and fellow New Jersey native Kevin Smith, Clerks, to make his own indie coming-of-age film. He and his friends kickstart fundraised $2,000 and proceeded to make every single mistake young filmmakers could possibly make, but it was too late. He fell in love with filmmaking, and I just lost that. Okay, and could possibly make. But it was too late. He fell in love with filmmaking and now collaborates frequently on projects with his creative partner, Greta Guthrie. Recent projects include the short film Overlook, which starred Jared Gilman, and Moonrise Kingdom, I guess that's where Jared was from on that movie, and The Tooth, a proof of concept for their award winning feature script, Baby Teeth. He currently works in the production office for The Equalizer while developing several new projects. People, please tune in, listen. If you have any questions, please say them. But without further ado, my cousin, he's a screenwriter, producer, director, Jacob, quotations, Jake Lazarow. And here he is. Hey, Jake.
Hello. It's so good to be here. Thank you
I'm
for
glad
having me on.
I'm glad to have you here, man. What you been up to? How's New York treating you?
It's going pretty well. I'm staying busy working in film all the time, but
Mm-hmm.
no, it's great. I really love it here. I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be.
Okay. So I was reading your bio, and was was it fourth grade? Tell us about that little story you wrote there about fourth grade.
I don't. I mean, my dad was an English teacher, so I think he kind of. I don't think he intentionally did, but I think he put some ideas in my head about enjoying writing. And when kids were on the swing sets and the jungle gym, I was writing, and that sounds so lame, but it honestly, you couldn't make it up if you tried. But yeah, no, my friend and I worked an entire school year to come up with a full book, and couldn't tell you what happened to it, but I'm pretty sure it was a lot about wolves because I was reading a book about owls, and I thought I'd write a book about wolves. So
Awesome. That's cool. And then like I told you before the show, Patrick was going to say Jersey Jake on there.
there he is. Hey, Pittsburgh Pat.
Pittsburgh Pat. But yeah, so it's interesting. I just find it exciting knowing that when people write a story or produce and film that where's your mind at when you write these things?
That's a really good question. I know a lot of screenwriters that outline, and they say that that's how they'll do it. They swear by it, and anyone that doesn't outline is doing it wrong. But I have trouble coming up with a story, sort of like building it out whole cloth. Most of the time, I'll just start writing, and it just kind of leads me into a specific direction, which is pretty scary because I can't plan very well about it. It just kind of has to come to me. But no shade to people who outline. I wish I could. It sounds like a great tool. But honestly, it'll just start from I'll see something that I think is really interesting, and I'll just write something very small based around it. And if I can think of the next scene after that, then I'm kind of off to the races, and we'll just kind of build the bridge as it goes, which is very scary.
I can imagine that. My friend Heidi from Boulder, she says, "Hello, beautiful souls. Much love from Boulder. Much love to you too, Heidi." But it just, I don't know. I'm just so excited. In fact, I'll be honest with you, brother. I'm kind of nervous having you on here on the show, man, because we haven't talked in ages and stuff. And I this week, this month on Into the Night, it's just like talking to authors, writers, stuff like that, people like that, and you came up. And I was like, I got to get Jake on the show. So you said in your bio that you were a big fan of Kevin Smith's.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain to people who don't know who Kevin Smith is, please?
Oh, yeah. He made a movie called Clerks back in the 90s that was kind of like, it jump-started the do-it-yourself kind of movie. He made the movie for basically nothing. He shot it on black and white film because he couldn't afford color film. The only way that the movie got made in the end was because he got into a car accident or his car got totaled, and he used the insurance payout to fund the rest of the movie. So it was like really scrappy, really low budget. He used like the convenience store that he worked at, and he just made this movie for like nothing, and it went on to Sundance, and he's a huge successful filmmaker because of it, and he's made sequels and a whole universe out of all of his movies, and it just, he grew up, all the places that he shot were like an hour and a half away from where I grew up, and when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, it's possible. It's just, it really speaks to this idea that like, and now it's even easier because we have access to phones, and equipment is easier to access, and it's not that expensive, and really anyone can do it. But he was like, in my eyes, one of the first to just like really go out and do it with just like no real official like education. He had no backing from any studios. He just went and did it, and I admired it so much. And I think it's a really good story about how anyone can make a movie. You can just get your friends together and make a movie.
Would you consider him as a mentor?
I mean, in a sort of mental space, yes. I would love to actually meet him and be mentored by him for real. But he has a film festival at the theater that he owns up in North Jersey, and one of our short films played in the festival, which was pretty cool. So like his film festival, we had our short film in there, and that was pretty exciting. So I feel like I'm getting closer.
So you think it's a lot? Do you think people are just gifted to write a show or write a short film, and then there's people like you were saying that go to school for it? Is there a lot of people that just sit down, take a piece of paper, start writing out the show, or do a lot of the people in New York and Los Angeles, whatever, do they expect you to have a college education in order to get kind of like big out there?
Film is actually one of the few, like I feel like it's a misconception, but you don't really need a college education. I was actually talking to someone about this over the weekend. I went to film school, and my education, like the classes and the course load, I wouldn't say was an immediate one-to-one of like what I'm doing in the industry. I don't think I needed to go to school to learn how to do what I'm doing right now. But I think going to film school, you have access to free equipment that you can use whenever, and shoot things with people that you wouldn't be able to meet otherwise, and you don't really have to worry about like just going out and making it without funding, without support, without and I think film school afforded me a lot of opportunities that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So it's hard because it's like, do you want to go into considerable debt just to have access to a couple cameras that are nice? But I think at a certain point, establishing the relationships and learning how to work with other people is so huge, because an 18-year-old fresh out of high school, I wouldn't say would necessarily have like the ability to collaborate as someone who maybe went through any sort of like college program. But I think it really depends on to each his own. Like if you want to go into the workforce, you can, and you can go into. I've worked with people who just go into the workforce and just start working in film, because you don't need a college education to be able to do the things on a film set. They don't, I send a resume for like one every 20 jobs that I do, because most of the time it's just like, oh, I heard from so-and-so that you're good, I'm going to hire you, kind of thing.
Right.
So it's a lot of
but they need that resume to actually see it. Now, would your resume be the film that you do?
My resume would be the projects that I've worked, like the commercials that I've worked on in production, the features that I've worked on, the TV shows that I've worked on, all of that stuff. Not so much like, oh, these are my projects, unless of course I'm like, trying to direct something. I'd be like, here are the projects that I've directed. But for the most part, people want to see like, oh, I have a resume, or I can list like 10 different projects that I've been a part of, that they can be like, oh, I know that's legit. You're not lying to me or making it up.
Okay, I see where you're getting at. Mr. Wojo, thank you for stopping in. It's okay for being late. Mr. Wojo, he's from Massachusetts up there. He hunts Bigfoot. And good dude, man. Him and Richie B, they're very good dudes. So whenever you would do your projects or do your filming and writing, did you do the editing? Did you have the final say so on editing, or do you have somebody else that edits the shows for your projects for you?
We work with an editor whenever we edit the stuff. His name is Nick. He's a wonderful editor. He's really great, and he has a very keen sense of like what we are talking about when we say things. He's able to translate. Like if we say something that's very hard to translate, he will find a way to translate it. But at the end of the day, if we're like, no, we want it this way, we'll talk about it, and we'll kind of, figure out what is the best way forward. It's not like a dictatorship where I'm like, you do this now or whatever. But like,
right,
if me and my creative partner are like, we think it should be this way, here's why, whatever, we'll talk about it, and we'll kind of figure out the best path forward.
So how long does it take you to figure it out?
It depends. There are some times where we'll like put a pin in something and then come back, a week later, and we'll have the answer to it. But a lot of the time it's like tinkering, like down to like a frame off of one end, a frame off the other end, and just kind of trying to figure it out. Because sometimes you shoot something and you're like, oh, this is great. This is exactly what I had in the script. And then you go into the edit and, you show it to someone and they're like, I'm not getting any of what you're talking about at all. And that's kind of a thing where then you have to be like, oh, okay, how can we go back and figure out and make sure that this is translating in the way that it should. So it's very hard. It's a very fickle process.
Oh, I can imagine. Okay, my friend River, she writes, I grew up, born and raised in Warwick, New York, just north of New York City, about 45 minutes, and always loved script writing, just never had the courage to try, too shy. So my novel coming out in September talks about that. And my dad always took me to see plays in New York City. It must be so exciting to be part of that. I got to see Les Miserables, I think that's how you say it, and The Showboat and Snow White and the Lion King from a native New Yorker. You should check out the beautiful wineries and vineyards in Warwick, New York. Huh. I don't know. That's cool as hell. Thank you for sharing that, River. Patrick says she is proud of you. And Cindy says, hello, Patrick. And Patrick says, Aunt Pat says hello. Hi. And she is proud of you. Hey, Gary, good to see you. Good evening to you too, buddy. For anybody who's just popping into the show, I got my cousin, Jacob, quotation marks, Jake Lazarow. He's a writer, producer, and director of his short projects. And he also works for behind the scenes of the Equalizer. And we're going to be getting into that in the second part of the show. He's going to talk all about what it's like running, working behind the scenes of a TV show. And so let's get to your projects, my friend. Okay. The first one was the Overlook. Can you explain that? And how can people find these shows or these movies that I'm telling you about?
So I have a Vimeo page where you can watch. You can't watch Overlook yet; it hasn't been released. But The Tooth is out there now, and that's a horror short film, so you can check that out. But Overlook is a short that me and my creative partner Greta Guthrie made. I wrote it about just very in line with Kevin Smith. Two guys kind of right out of high school trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives. Pretty quiet, very small drama, but it was the first project out of college that all of us kind of got together to work on. We shot it in Central PA. Actually, we shot it in State College, and we just had a blast doing it. We fundraised money to shoot it. It was the first project that we really had a crew and had gear and really went and did the whole thing out of college. And it was really nice because it was right after after COVID, so we hadn't seen each other in forever. So it was the first time that we were all together again, and we could all work on this project and be together and do something really cool that we were really proud of. So that was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing that one.
Can I type in to the chat room here where they need to go find your shows?
Oh, sure. I can just put the link to.
Okay, you know how to do that. I don't. Oh, here it is. Okay, Patrick says, "Are they bringing back Mel next season?" He can't tell you, Pat.
I can't tell you. I cannot disclose any information about the next season. You'll just have to watch to find out.
But yeah. So, what was the drama show about? The Overlook.
What was it about?
Yeah.
Just that one of them worked at a convenience store, and the other one kind of just did nothing. And it was this. We were trying to kind of see about how do you break out of a funk when you're in a funk, when you're kind of stuck and down on your luck. We were all kind of working jobs that we didn't really like, and we weren't able to see each other very much. So it was this like isolated kind of experience that we all had because of COVID, and how when you're stuck in that sort of isolation, how you can find a way to break out of it. Essentially, was kind of what we were thinking.
Okay. That's you know what, I haven't watched it, but I am definitely going to definitely watch it. But I know that we have you have a project coming up that we talked about Ghost the other
Oh
couple
yes,
months.
yeah.
Yes, please talk about it.
So I wanted to. I mean, I grew up watching Ghost Hunters with my mom, and I know that there are differing opinions on Ghost Hunter, but when I was a kid, I just loved ghost. I loved ghost hunting, and I knew that you ghost hunted, and I thought that was so cool because it was so like, oh my god, these guys are on TV, and I know that it's not the same thing. But I was like, you do that for real. You do that. That's what you actually do. I've always wanted to actually do, because I have a love in my heart for the portrayals that horror movies have for ghost hunters, as outlandish as they can be, and as completely incorrect, and how heightened the ghosts are. But I really wanted to do something that was more accurate to current times, because a lot of them are like 70s horror, and they have like tape decks, and they're trying to record voices and stuff like that. But I really wanted to capture a little more about like more realistic methodology, I guess, and talking to you showed me a sort of how you do it when you're actually there doing it, and it's not for cameras, it's not for any, it's just you're just searching for paranormal activity. And I learned so much about the technology that's actually used, and how it's used, and how effective it can be, and all that stuff.
Right.
And I really wanted to take that into the story of a ghost hunter, and I don't think I would have been able to do it without the conversation that we had. So thank you again.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Kind of like puts a little couple beats in my heart. Thank you for saying that. Really. Gary is going to meet Pittsburgh Dad on the 30th. Anything I should tell him for you, Sean? Nah. Tell him the Steelers are going to stink this year. That's about it. They're pretty bad. But I don't know. I'm just like seriously excited that you're here on the show. I am. But you were talking earlier because that you're more into the horror genre, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So you were talking about the tooth. and then the baby teeth. Yeah, at least the Patriots. I ain't even gonna go there, Mr. Wojo. I got my cousin on tonight, so just. But no, tell me about how the tooth and baby teeth merge into one.
So my writing partner and I wrote Baby Teeth, and it was doing well. It won a pretty big screenplay competition, and it was we were getting some meetings because of it, and talking to some people, and sort of getting the ball rolling a little bit. This was all pre the writer's strike, and we were both working on a show, and our boss at the time, who wanted to be a cinematographer, who wanted to shoot film, was like, "Hey, I just bought this new camera and I want to make something. Can we make something?" And we were like, "We don't have anything to make. We have this movie, but it would cost $3 million to make it. We don't have $3 million." But we were like, "Okay, let's see if we can." A lot of people will take scripts and then shoot a small version of it, like a couple scenes out of it, or like a truncated version of it, and call it a proof of concept. And then they'll use that proof of concept as a way to be like, "Look, I can do this. I can write this. I can make this. I have a full version of this. If you're interested in it based off of the short version that I made, I have a full version that's ready to go." So because she asked us to make something, we ended up making The Tooth, which is it's very condensed, but it's like the first 7-ish pages of the feature. So if you watch the short and you're like, "Whoa, I'd love to see what happens next," well, there you go. We got a whole movie waiting for you, supposedly. But yeah, that's basically how that came about. But there are a lot of like famous examples of horror movies that have come from proof of concepts, like Lights Out, which was 2016, I think, and then Oculus, and there's a million different versions of it. But basically, because horror is so easy to, not easy, but it's easy to make on a lower budget. If you make a 2-minute short film that people really like, then it can very quickly turn into a feature version.
Okay.
Night came out earlier this year. It was also approved.
So basically, what you're saying is that to do short scenes or short 2-minute, 3-minute videos is a hell of a lot better than to do a 20-minute deal on YouTube?
Depends. If you have a really, really good 20-minute short, a really good 20-minute short, then yes. But most of the time, and this is someone who has made a 25-minute short, most of the time, attention span, it's hard to keep people's attention span. If it's 2 minutes, it's so easy for someone to just watch it. And for programming at film festivals, the longer the short is, the harder it is to program, because even if it's an amazing 30-minute short, they could fit 6 5-minute shorts in that same time, which would mean more opportunities for filmmakers to come and attend the festival, and more exposure for different projects. So it has to be like a really, the longer the short is, it has to be much better. So, but mostly for attention span, if you're talking, because a lot of horror shorts get put on YouTube, for attention span, the shorter, the easier it is to share it, and friends to watch it quickly. If you send your friend a 25-minute short film, it's going to take them a while to get around to watching it. Again, experience. It takes me, I don't have all the time to watch a 25-minute short, but I do have the time to watch a 2-minute short.
Okay, I see where you're getting at. Now, we're going to be coming up on a break. Okay, it's a 70-second break for people go and grab a smoke or get something to drink, go to the bathroom, whatever. And we'll come back and we'll do the second part of the show of you working behind the scenes of the TV show, The Equalizer, with the actress who's on her. All right, we'll see you in 70 seconds, everybody. There we go. Oh, wait. There we go.
News on the flip side. It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcast. There's an amazing show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. The News on the Flip Side, in the category of politics and news. News on the Flip Side is a much different news and political program. which is not deemed as opinion news. Listen as anchor host Joe Montaldo brings you just the facts from trusted sources, which will allow you, the people, to make up your own minds on the various stories being reported on. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate the News on the Flip Side in the category of News and Politics. That's podcastawards.com. Please take a moment and vote now.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Into the Night with me, Sean Kelly. I got my guest, Jake Lazarow. I guess Lazarow, however, I don't know.
You've only known me my whole life.
I just know, yeah, that's right, your whole life, but I just know you by Jake. Jake's a lot more easier to remember. But I want to thank UPRN Talk Radio, 105.3 New Orleans, 107.7 Mississippi. And I also like to thank Carnation for sponsoring my show tonight. In the first half of the show, real quick, my guest, Jake, he is a writer, producer, director of his own movies. And he talked about some of the short films and his projects that he did. But he also works for in the back office for the TV show The Equalizer. Can I say her name?
Yeah, you can say. I'm pretty sure everyone knows who's the star.
The Equalizer with Queen Latifah. Okay, and he's going to tell us a little bit what it's like to actually work behind the scenes of a TV show. Go for it, brother.
So it's not as it's certainly not as glamorous as you might think. It's just like any job. But I work in the production office, so a lot of the stuff that I'm doing, I'm going on runs, making sure that, if camera needs a piece of equipment picked up from across the city and they need it delivered to the set in 5 minutes ago, that's me. I'm running, I'm picking it up, and I'm bringing it to set and all that stuff, and making sure that our cast has everything that they need. If things get sent to them, got to make sure that that's delivered to them. But it's a lot of just like managing the office. We have scripts that get sent to set every day, so making sure that the scripts are ready to go to set every day, making sure that all the paperwork is done. It's the paperwork side of things where there's a lot more paperwork than you might expect working on a TV show. But it's unfortunately, I wish I could be more glamorous. I've worked on jobs where I'm on set and I'm around the actors a lot of the time, but for this job, it's a little more relaxed, which is fine by me.
So can you tell us the other shows that you actually worked on set for?
Sure. A lot of NBC shows. So Dr. Death, which was based on a podcast. It was like a medical show about medical malpractice. But that had Mandy Moore in it and Edgar Ramirez. That was the last show that I did before the strike. And then another NBC show called The Calling, which did not make it past the first season. But you can still watch it on Peacock if you want to see it. And then I worked. My first job actually was working on it was a small movie. We were actually talking about this before, but it was produced by Dick Wolf. Never met him on set, but it was a small movie that had. It was the cast was just crazy. It was like John Boyega and Bill Skarsgård, who plays Pennywise in the It movies. Olivia Cook, who's now on House of the Dragon, and Kyle Mooney, who was on SNL. It was just like every day there was a new actor. And this was my first set ever. And I was like, oh my God, are they all like this? And they were not all like that. But for me, it was so exciting because it was like, oh my God, Ed Skrein, who was also on Game of Thrones and Deadpool and a million other things. But it was just like every day, it was just like a new famous person was going. And I was like a wide-eyed 21-year-old, like, wow, this is what it's like. And it's not always like that, because it's not every day that they get 18 different actors who are huge to come and do this movie for probably not very much money. But that was really exciting. That was a lot of fun. And we were shooting on the streets of New York with all of these actors, and it was very scrappy and very low budget. That was pretty cool. That was probably one of my favorite experiences.
Do you think that the actors, even though they demand big money, do you think a lot of them just like to film and really seriously not get paid about it?
Well, I mean, like, I'm friends with a lot of actors, like working actors, like not actors who are in a Star Wars movie, and you just can tell that even without, I mean, obviously everybody would like to get paid, but they just love acting. They love doing it. My friends that I've worked with on shoots that we're not making for any money, they just love acting because it's what they love to do. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure I know that the money is when I make money, it's great. And even though I love being in the film industry, I also like to get paid. But I know so many actors who are so incredibly talented and just want to be able to use that talent.
Now, okay, Heidi says, I would think that it would be an amazing experience for them too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I agree. And I would be totally amazed with it. Back in 2012, I did film a 13 episode of Raw Fear. I don't know if you ever saw any of those shows.
I didn't know about that.
I'll have to send them to you. What we did was we took like 6 people, 6 kids, and who never did a paranormal investigating, and we would take them to places and film them investigating. No script, no nothing. They just went in just like they would do if you went out on an investigation, with PPS. But what the deal was, I mean, we did one show where we got no evidence at all. Nothing really hit off the scales. And I still put it on TV to show people that you don't always get evidence whenever you go on an investigation, and there's not producers manipulating the people to actually try to get some stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the actors, what are they different personas? I mean, I see them on Entertainment Tonight. I see them when they're acting in their shows, their movies, or whatever they are. They are down to earth, or do they? Is their, how do I want to say it? Is their character totally different from what the person is?
I think it depends person to person. Just like anyone. People can be very outgoing or very reserved. I hear all the time comedians talking about how they go in for like a doctor's appointment, and the doctor will be like, "Oh, what do you do?" And they're like, "Oh, I'm a comedian," and the doctor's like, "Tell me a joke," that kind of thing. But I think it's the same for actors, that when they're on, some of them or all, I won't speak to the whole thing, but a lot of the time a lot of the actors that I've worked with are very, much more reserved. Their personas are very big, but they kind of save that big persona for when they have to do all these talk shows, and
right.
But a lot of the time they're just regular people. but they're just forced to be in this, in the spotlight, and they have to, on a talk show, they have to make it interesting so that people want to see whatever project that they're in. But not all the time are they like that. But again, it varies person to person, and I've worked with actors all over the spectrum of, really, really bubbly and very outgoing, and then very reserved and very serious, and then people who, if you saw them on the street, you would, and they had struck up a conversation with you, you wouldn't even think twice that they're, a huge star that makes millions of dollars. So it really depends on the person.
Okay, and that comes to my next question, which was in my head and it just went out the door somewhere. I don't know where it went, but it went somewhere. But I find it interesting to where you're what, 25 now?
26, almost 27.
Almost 27. And going to Penn State University, right? You did a job there for the band. Can you tell me about it?
Oh, yeah. I was the videographer for the Blue Band, which was something that I got freshman year. I had been on campus like a month, and they put out the job. They were like, oh, we're looking for someone to be a videographer for the Blue Band. And I was like, oh my God. Like, my dad marched in the Blue Band. I was never, ever even going to come close to being able to do that. That was not my thing. I kind of fell off band in middle school. But I was like, this would be such a cool opportunity. I'm such a huge Penn State football fan, so it would.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately for me.
There's a big story. There's a big rivalry between my family and his family. They're Penn State fanatics, and we're the University of Pittsburgh football.
Unfortunately for you too, I would say.
Yeah, very unfortunate. I don't know. Pretty bad here. But what people the blue? Oh, Sebastian, how you doing, buddy? And what's up, Sebastian? He says hello to you, Jake. He's a good dude.
Hey,
what the Blue Band, is that the Penn State University marching band?
Yeah, the Penn State University marching band.
And what did you actually do as a videographer there?
So our main job was to make sure that halftime and pregame were filmed. Like when they're marching on the field, we had to make sure that was shot and then edited as fast as humanly possible and uploaded. I don't know if they still do it. That it's been a couple of years since I worked there, but that was the big thing. And then we would also shoot footage whenever we went to the Rose Bowl, which was so cool. And then we went to the Fiesta Bowl the next year, and it was basically just documenting the trip and documenting the Rose Bowl parade and all that stuff. Every year they take one trip to an away game. So we went to Columbus for an Ohio State game. We went to Pitt for one of the Pitt games, and just documenting all of that. And yeah, so it was a really, really cool job because I was 18 and I had so much 18, 19, and I had so much autonomy to just film it, put it together, do all this stuff. It was a pretty crazy job to give someone who was in high school not that long ago, but it was really
right.
Cool. And I got to go to all the games for free and experience it in a completely different way, and it was a really cool opportunity.
Heidi goes rock chalk. She's from Kansas.
No.
He's a Jayhawk fan. Okay, all righty. So we're getting down to the final, about 6 minutes up to the show. I got to let you go. But the last question I do want to ask you is, out of all the years that you've been doing your projects and working in TV, and what is the most major accomplishment that that you got from, what was the biggest thing that really got to you? You know what I'm talking about, right, brother?
We our feature script that we were writing, we won a pretty big screenwriting competition, which was, it's hard enough to place it in those things, but we won one, and we won $1,000 from it, which was pretty cool because that was the first time that we were paid for our writing, which is it's a pretty wild feeling to be like, oh my God, I was paid because I wrote something and then I was paid because of it, and I've been writing since I was in elementary school. So like to be paid like a meaningful amount of money because of it, it was really, really cool. And they develop things with you, like they set up meetings because of it and stuff like that. So it kind of gave us a little push to be like, okay, we're on the right track. We're doing the right things. It's we're not, we haven't broken in. We haven't made our first, feature for $3 million or whatever. But it was like enough to be like, keep doing this. You're on the right path, and good things are going to happen to us, hopefully. But we keep chugging along. But that was a huge confidence boost.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm proud of you, brother. I am. I'm definitely proud of you. Everybody, Heidi says her son graduated from Kansas University. My son graduated from the Ohio State University. And everybody needs to know that the Ohio State and Penn State are like the biggest rivalries ever going on now in football. But I don't know. I talked to you tonight, and I just see a little boy grown into a man now who's very good at his job, and I'm sure that you will just continue to grow, and hopefully I'll see you on the award shows or something like that. But like they say, it's a bunch of baby steps. So I'm going to ask you this question. For anybody out there listening who wants to get into the field at writing, directing, or producing, what do you suggest to them, Jake?
Man, that's a tough question. I would say oh my God, it's the thing that's a million people have told me, but it's just do the work. Like, it's just, I know so many people that want to be screenwriter but don't screenwrite. They want to produce but they're not actually producing. They want to direct but they're not actively seeking ways. It's just doing the work. I have a mentor who is always on my case about, like, I have, I write a script, and the first thing that I want to do is make sure that everyone that I could possibly send it to sees it, and start trying to send it out to places. He's like, every time I write something, he's like, you need to celebrate this and then take some time and then start working on the next thing. And it drives me crazy because I'm like, no, it's time to make the movies. It's time to be, but it's like, you just have to keep doing the work, and eventually something will happen from it. And that's something that I have to tell myself all the time, because it frustrates me, because I want to be there already. But I also know that every script that I write, I get better. I can tell that I get better. And then I go back and look at the other scripts and I go, oh my God, I didn't even, think about that. I just finished rewriting a script that the last draft that I did was a year ago. And I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, it's so dumb. This and this, and switching these things around and tweaking these things. And that's just comes from just doing the work. So just like you said, baby steps, but it really is just like one foot in front of the other. And each thing that happens is going to be a reason that gets you to where you need to go.
I believe in you, brother, and I know you're definitely going to get there. I have no doubt in my mind. Cindy says that thank you for sharing with us, Jake.
It's great to be here.
Maybe get you on next year and see if you wrote like, a Pulitzer movie, whatever. I don't know. But real quick, another question for you. Now, say like you write the movie now and you give it to a producer. You're not producing it, but you write the movie. Do you have a say-so on who stars in that movie for the characters?
It more depends on who's interested, because getting attachments is such a huge deal. Like, that's a really big way to get for, movie from a relative, from an unknown, or an unknown director, whatever. If you can get attachments, that's huge. So like I could say like, oh, I've always envisioned this person for this role. And a lot of the time you'll make it's called a lookbook or a pitch deck of like, here are the characters that I'm envisioning. And here are the actors that I'm envisioning. And they can, if it feels like a good fit, they would take that into consideration. But like really it's, they send the script out to people, and if people are interested, those are the people, and they're the right fit, and they are a well enough known actor, then those are the people that they'll go
after. Joe Fox says 2 nights in a row I missed you, Sean. Joe, honestly, you can just watch the reruns. Hello to you too, Joe Fox. Hello to you too. Listen, Jake, thank you very much for coming on tonight.
Thank you.
And I really learned a lot about you. I'm proud of you. And man, I love you too, because you're family, dude. You know that, all right? And children, if you can, please go to your parents, give them a hug, and tell them that you love them. And parents, please go to your children, give them a hug, and tell them that you love them. And if you have no parents, if you have no children, find somebody and give them a hug and tell them that you love them. Because those 3 words, I love you, go a long way. And on that note, good night, everybody, and we'll see you next Sunday. And good night.